And often we don't ask enough questions when it comes to at-risk behaviors. And so one of the first questions we should ask is, did the person purposely perform the behavior they knew was unsafe? Sometimes the answer is yes, I meant to do it. Sometimes the answer is no, I didn't even know I did it, or I didn't intend to do it. Those are two very different categories of behavior. We've got calculated risk on one side, we've got human error on the other. So talking about human error for a minute. Human error, that can be broken down further as well. System-induced human error. The classic example of system-induced human error comes from the 1970s era nuclear industry, where you have two big red buttons on a control panel. One big red button floods a reactor, another big red button drains a reactor. The lights start flashing, the sirens start going, you gotta make a quick decision to hit one of these two big red buttons. Is it predictable that eventually somebody's getting the wrong button? Yeah. Is it because they didn't pay attention to training? Is it because they don't care about safety? They got a bad safety attitude? No. It's because you put the two big red buttons sitting right beside each other. You should separate it, make one of them blue, put one of them over there. So system-induced human error. One more example, a more recent one. There was a company that had a sweeper. Now I've been told that these sweepers, this is a fairly common design. But just because it's a common design for these sweepers doesn't mean it's a common design for operating a piece of equipment. But there's a pedal on this thing. The first, or the top part of the pedal, if you push it, the sweeper goes forward. If you touch the bottom part of the pedal, the sweeper moves backwards. To get the sweeper out of the way, because it was in a congested area, they parked it right by a loading dock with a 4-foot prop. Now, knowing that it had a non-standard pedal system, or at least for most vehicles, you could probably predict what happened. The operator got in the sweeper, not on purpose, accidentally touched the bottom part of the pedal, and the thing backed up, dropped 4 feet, totaled the sweeper. Luckily, the injury was not severe. But think of the system influences there. We got the non-standard design. We've got it parked in the wrong place. The person didn't say, ooh, this will be fun, backing this thing up all over this thing. It's those system influences. And let's move on. Individual variables. Now, sometimes we don't err because of the system. Sometimes it's within the person. What are people going through sometimes that makes it more likely that they might have an error today versus a month ago? Lots of things. It can be family troubles, divorce, illnesses, kids failing out of school, all kind of things. There was a lady that I was talking to at the gym recently. I've been trying to go to the gym because the doctor told me that I had high blood pressure and high cholesterol and I should take this medicine. And I said, well, I've been thinking about trying to get back in shape. How about if I just, lost 10, 15 pounds? Would that do it? He says, well, yeah, that'd probably do it too. But, that wasn't his first suggestion that he start exercising. His first suggestion was to take some pills. That's a different issue. But anyway, I start going to the gym on a regular basis. And when you go to the gym on a regular basis, you typically see the regular people there. And the typical response, or actually the typical question I ask is, hi, how are you doing? And the response is usually what? Fine, how are you? So that was what I was expecting. I see one of the regular ladies there, I say, how you doing? And she goes, oh, you might have noticed I haven't been here for a while. Gosh, I was hurt at work and I haven't been here in about 4 weeks. My husband just told me recently if I don't get back to work soon, we're gonna have to miss our family vacation this year and all these, and I'm just thinking, I was expecting fine, how are you? I'm not prepared for all this. So sometimes, we need more than the person next to us on the treadmill to talk to, which is why it's important to have employee assistance programs, but it's also why it's important to have a culture where it's the norm to talk to each other, to communicate with each other, to give each other feedback, to notice when we're not performing quite right. And developing that culture is important. So let's move on to the calculated risk side. Sometimes, yes, I meant to do it, but just because you intend to perform a risky behavior, just because you intend to perform a behavior that some rule book says not to do, doesn't mean you have malicious intent, doesn't mean you have ulterior motives, doesn't mean you tried just to mess up the system. Sometimes, very often, we have positive intentions. One of the quick and dirty tests you can give yourself to tell whether or not you have a lot of these system-encouraged behaviors is to sort of give yourself this quick test. Ask yourself, if somebody performed a job that normally takes about 2 hours to do, and they got that job done in 45 minutes, what do you think the most likely feedback would be to your employee? If it's not, wow, it usually takes a couple hours to get this done, I'm concerned you might have bypassed something important, getting it done in only 45. Or how did you do it? Maybe others can learn from that. But if it's simply, hey, great job, then obviously what did that person learn? That whatever it was that I just did to get that job done so quickly, that's what a good employee does around here, especially if there's a lot of talk, why the customer needs it now, we're running behind, we need to hurry. Those types of situations, it's easy to see how people would choose to perform a behavior that, yeah, a rule book says not to do, but they thought that's what the company wanted them to do. But there are some behaviors, willful negligence, that a logical person would not come to believe that's really what we want people to do. I worked with an oil refinery years ago, and one of the guys, he lit up a cigarette in the middle of the tank farms. And when asked, why did you do that? He said, well, the break area is a 20-minute walk that way, a 20-minute walk back. I just saved the company 40 minutes. Now I'm thinking, if you've got someone who thinks like that, they probably ought not be working in a refinery. There are some people that probably just shouldn't be working in hazardous environments where they can hurt themselves, hurt others, and there needs to be a path out of the organization for those types of people. And so there needs to be that box there. But it should be extremely rare. We don't put nearly enough information in those system boxes, the system-induced, system-encouraged. And that's where most organizations need to do a much better job of asking the questions to try to figure out why that adverse behavior is occurring. And then that will lead to the most appropriate intervention.